Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Made in New England interview series, where we talk about New England-based companies and the people who run them. So I'm your host, Steve DeVries, and today I'm joined by the president of Shire's Premium Plant-Based Cheeses out of Peterborough, New Hampshire. Joshua, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
All right. Well, we were talking a little bit before we started the interview today, and Shires is actually a new name, a new brand name for a product that I think many people out there are already aware of, Nothing Ordinary. So we'd love to hear more about Shires and you yourself and your business journey. So maybe you could just give us a little bit of background.
Yeah. My husband and I started this company back in 2013. We were both on the same page when it came to health and wellness. I'm lactose intolerant. I also actually was raised a vegan vegetarian in the 80s and 90s. My parents were always focused on health and wellness. And as I grew older, I looked at the dairy alternatives that were out there. And if you've ever walked the dairy alt section in any supermarket, it's oils, thickeners, and gums. And, we wanted to change that. We weren't buying them. We weren't eating them. We had a plant-based restaurant concept that we were going to start, and all the dairy alternatives didn't align with that. And so we decided to get to work and change that. Knew nothing about CPG. But we dove right in. Sometimes they say ignorance is bliss, and I don't know if we would have started what we are in right now if we knew all the nuances that come with building a brand. And so we ended up building a test lab in my parents' basement in 2013, and I built that out. Spent 4 years of R&D focused around fermentation using cashews as the base. And so, by the way, what we're making is a plant-based cheese. It's a soft cheese. And, our goal, once again, is health and wellness focused. So no oils, thickeners, or gums. And we achieve that through fermentation. So it's literally just cashews, water, Himalayan pink salt, nutritional yeast, and cultures, and that's it. The rich and creamy mouthfeel, delicious tangy finish, all comes from fermentation.
Fermentation, like you would find with beer,
Yeah,
different
yeah.
type of fermentation.
Beer or
I'm not familiar
yogurt,
with it.
beer, yogurt. It's a new product, and so, or at least back in 2013, a lot of people weren't fermenting nut-based products, and so it took about 4 years to figure out the proper fermentation process. And then once we had that down, we raised some capital right here in New England, right here in our own backyard in Peterborough, New Hampshire. We ended up raising within like 2 years, it's sort of like a rolling raise. We raised a little over $1 million, and that allowed us to move from my parents' basement test lab to proper manufacturing facility. We built out a fermentation facility in Peterborough, New Hampshire, and moved into it in 2019, 8,000 square feet. And we were able to pick up Market Basket and Whole Foods and Wegmans once we were in that facility, because we had the capacity to do that.
Those are not small grocery stores.
Yeah, no, no.
What was that like, being such a small business, a startup? What was it like dealing with those giant corporations?
Overwhelming in the beginning. There's always a lot of paperwork that comes with it. And but when we started this, we told ourselves we're going to operate as if we were big from day one. So aside from just taking the time to fill all that paperwork out, we, had everything lined up already and ready to go. But yeah, it was a seamless, these guys have been doing it for a while, so it's a seamless process. It's just when you see that stack and you're like, oh man, I have to fill all this out. That part's always overwhelming, but it's always worth it, as long as it's the right fit for you.
I like that approach that you decided that you made that conscious decision that despite being, small and more or less a startup, that you were going to operate as a large company. I think there's a lot of value in that message to people that might find themselves in a similar situation where they're a small business and they want to sell to the really big stores, whatever industry it happens to be in. So I think that's a good takeaway from just the start of this conversation. So Joshua, what would you say has been the driver of your success or your business's success to this point?
The drive to our success. I heard this great quote the other day. Um, I think would sum it up as we will persist until we succeed. And building a brand is not easy. We've been doing this for 10 years, and I'd say, it's going out and meeting the people that when you're sampling, they're saying, thank you so much for making this. Thank you so much for making a healthy dairy alternative. I can't eat cheese because I'm lactose intolerant or I'm vegan, but I don't like any of the options that are out there because they're not healthy for you. I'm whole food, plant-based focused. And then there's just other people that enjoy great food and they're like, wow, this is great. Thank you for, devoting 4 years of trying to figure out how to ferment, cashews correctly. Those are the things that I would say um, are drivers.
Tenacity. That's what I heard, and that was tenacity and passion, right? You're obviously passionate about what you do. So
You have to be.
when it comes to operating a business, large or small, we always tend to have some type of metrics or KPIs that we follow. So for the business geeks out there like myself, do you have any particular metrics or KPIs that you could share with us that you think are key to operating your business successfully?
Yeah, so in our line of business, we focus on velocity, so how fast the product is moving off shelf. So that's been a focus from day one, and how we've been able to have strong velocities is by going out and demoing products. But that's our number one metric that, you're, it's not about picking up 200 stores all at once and then going off and picking up another 200 stores. It's picking up those 200 stores and saying, okay, like, let's focus on the velocities. Let's lock those stores in. Let's get those consumers locked into our products before you move on to the next, you know, 20, 30, 1,000 stores that you're looking for.
Very cool. I like the approach. So you think about your future of the business, and you've just come out with this new rebrand, right? So a lot of exciting things happening. What excites you the most when you look at the future?
Oh, what excites me the most? Oh, we've learned a lot, and I think what we've been seeing is, we started in 2013, and we thought the market was ready then, or young, naive. We were just like, okay, this is going to take like 3 years and everyone's going to get what we're doing. Three turned into 10. What we're seeing today is the market is ready. The market is finally ready, and consumers are actively seeking out cleaner, whole food, plant-based products. So, they're not looking for these over processed brands that are filled with oils, thickeners, and gums. They're actively seeking us out. And that's what excites us, is because, the last 10 years, we've been out there educating everyone on why we are here. But there was a lot of noise involved in that as well, with these larger competitors, that had raised a significant amount of money, but their products were not healthy. They weren't good for you. And so that experience that people were getting, they were saying, why would I buy a dairy alternatives? It's not healthy for me. It doesn't taste great. I'm not going to try yours. I've already tried one. So, we're really, really excited, especially with this, new brand name, um, to get out there again and start growing and getting into, the American households.
Nice. Well, I give you a ton of credit and kudos on the new brand. I'm looking at your website right now. Everything looks delicious. It looks like you've been a trusted brand forever, and yet you're just launching. So
I
I'm
love that.
excited. I'm excited to see what that does for your business.
Thank you.
So I always like to flip things around. So we talked about what excites you. What concerns do you have about your business or the market, things of that nature?
So I'm gonna go back to saying, our our biggest challenge, I guess, is when we're out there and we're sampling and we're talking to consumers and they're saying, why would I try this? I already tried this dairy alternative brand. It wasn't good. It didn't taste good. It's not healthy. It's full of oils, thickeners, and gums. That is what always concerns us, is like how it makes our job hard, right? At the end of the day, we're trying to convince that consumer, give dairy alternatives a second shot, because not all dairy alternatives are created equal. My concern is another large company, someone that's like heavily funded, but they're in it, in my opinion, for all the wrong reasons. They don't care about health and wellness for the people. And they're just making a cheap product, oils, thickeners, and gums, and they're getting it out there. It just makes our jobs really, really difficult. And, it I'd say that's one of our major concerns is, you know, cutting through the BS, I guess.
So in that vein, do you see your products as being more of a niche, or do you think that you have something that could be widely accepted, broad-based appeal, whether or not people are really health conscious and looking for those alternatives or not? I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we have two products right now. We have our cheese line, which is cream cheese and cheese spreads, but we also have our frozen ravioli line. And to answer that question, I'd say our frozen ravioli line is more mainstream right now. I don't think the market is 100% ready for, um, the market is still a little bit smaller for the plant-based cheese side. I think it'll really take off in 3 years, and that's why we're still pushing forward with it. But the growth that we're going to see is going to come from our frozen ravioli, and the reason being is everyone knows what to do with the ravioli. It's approachable, right? Like 99% of Americans like 1% change, and that's the ravioli for us. You can have that our frozen ravioli in a Walmart and a Target, from conventional to natural channels. It's going to do really well. I don't see Shire's cream cheese line at a Walmart today. That customer is not ready. There's probably a couple customers there, but not enough to lock us in and have great velocities there. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your
Okay.
question.
It absolutely does. It's actually really helpful to understand that from a business perspective. And I think it's really interesting that the raviolis are the ones that you see the initial lead or taking that growth path. So very cool stuff.
Yeah, I think
So
it's a conversation opener. I think it's like, hey, people are going to try it. They're going to fall in love with it. They have been. And from there, they're going to say, oh, Shire's makes a cream cheese, cheese spread. They're going to give it a shot. But I don't think we can lead with the cheese right now because, the mass market isn't quite ready for it.
okay, and I think the lesson here is understanding your market, understanding what your customers are thinking and looking for, right? So for people out there that are listening to this and thinking about starting their own business, whatever it may be, it's a great lesson there, right?
Yeah.
In terms of understanding where your customers are and meeting them at that point, as opposed to forcing something that they're not ready for. You've mentioned that several times, customers being ready. So great stuff. I want to ask you about
Can I
being
touch
in.
up? So really
Yeah.
quickly on that, we see our cheese spreads, our cheese line at Sprouts, at Whole Foods, Fresh Market, all of those natural chains. When I say it's not ready for mass market, I'm talking about like the Walmarts and Targets of the world.
Okay. Understood. Understood. Good clarification. So, and it's two different consumers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're a Peterborough, New Hampshire based business. That's where it began, and you've set up shop there. Being in New Hampshire and New England in general, can you talk about any pros or cons that you see from operating your business where, located here in New Hampshire?
Yeah. I'd say the pros are community, which is really important to us. Adam and I wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for the community that has been very supportive. like I mentioned earlier, we've raised most of our capital right here in our backyard, from angels that some of them are first time, investors, and a lot of it just came from them hearing what we were building, and they wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to support local businesses, and they want to see other thriving companies in the area. That's a pro of being right here in New England, and I don't know if you get that elsewhere. I definitely don't know, and I'm originally from New York City, but I don't think I would have gotten the same treatment in New York City. You're all of a sudden you're one out of millions of people out there versus in Peterborough, New Hampshire, it's Adam and I amongst 6,000 people. Um,
I love that. There really is that small town community feel here, and so I'm glad that you mentioned that. So, last question for me: uh, any advice at all for budding business leaders that may be facing similar challenges to what your business or you may have faced along the way? Any kind of advice at all along those lines?
so if I were to do this again, I definitely would go and do a little more research on the industry. I dove into figuring out how to make the product is what I did first. If I could backpedal, I would go to, like, every industry pretty much has an expo, a trade show that you can go to. I encourage anyone that's looking to start um, any business to look into their industry, see what expos they have out there, what trade shows they can go to, and start making friends there. Start, networking, and then take the next step and say, yeah, this is the path I want to go down. And I have zero regrets about the path that we're going down. I just think I would have learned a little more and understood how our industry works, and then have more of a realistic path um, on our growth.
Love it. Love it. So, for all of you that are just learning about Shires for the first time, I'm looking at the website. It's eatshires.com. I would encourage everybody to check it out. It looks delicious. Joshua Velasquez, you've been a fantastic guest. I really appreciate you being on today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
All right. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching and listening. We'll be back soon enough with our next episode of Made in New England. Have a great day.